Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Alright, so we're going to be recording our part 2 of our Q&As because we got a ton more questions that I printed out and Kelly has some on her phone, so here we go.
Q&A about the egg donation, if you were wondering.
Yes, egg donation Q&A. And I think Bill and John maybe they want to say some stuff, but maybe that'll be a separate video, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we can do like a husband's one, and if they leave questions underneath here.
Yeah.
If you have any questions for our husbands, her as the recipient husband, or me as the donor husband, or John as the husband.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Of the donor.
Leave them below.
Leave them below.
Because they both said that they will do a video, so that's nice.
And we are halfway through stimming, by the way, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
Hopefully halfway.
Okay, let's start here. This one I think is to me. It says, depending on how many embryos you get, how many are you willing to use at one time? I would like to put in 1, but part of me wants to say 2 just to make sure, but it scares me because what if it is twins then? But I would be happy with twins, I would take it, but it just scares me a little bit. But it would be fine. I'd probably 2 though at the most. My doctor wouldn't let me put any more in.
Well, doesn't it depend on what the grade the eggs are too?
Right, yeah, but I think that in this case, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. So, yeah, stop. Alright, here's one for you. It says, Kelly, first off, I think you're amazing. Do you think the lines will get blurred from the child's perspective on the idea of biological mom/egg donor? I know you won't be her mom, per se, and are donating sort of raw material, but how do you think the child will interpret that?
I don't think the line's going to get blurred because we don't live near each other. You know,
yeah.
Like I could see it maybe getting a little bit confusing as the child gets older if we were constantly together. Mm-hmm. But since I live a good 5 to 6 hours away from Lisa and Bill, I mean, the most I'll probably see the child, hopefully, you know, depending on how the relationship works, would be like FaceTiming every once in a while, right. And then like visiting on holidays or special occasions or stuff like that. And again, you know, because Lisa's carrying her children, I don't think it's going to be, how can it get, I mean, I understand, like, genetically, as they get older, there would be that kind of confusion, but, I mean, again, kids only know what they know from the very beginning and what they're taught, and if this baby, the first voice it hears, the first smell it smells is Lisa and Bill, you know, those are very strong connections, you know, so I don't think it's going to be an issue in regards to having the lines blurred. I mean, when they become teenagers, though, who knows? But again, they'll have spent their whole life knowing Lisa as their mother because that's their mother, and me as just the friend, you know, or whatever title I have been given or involvement that I have, and I don't think it'll be an issue.
All right. And then another part says, how did you handle that as a child being adopted? It says, I'm fascinated with the idea of what makes a family, and I don't think it's blood or genetics, but I'm curious how those conversations will go and have gone for you when you were a kid.
I don't think my parents ever sat me down and were like, you're adopted. I just kind of always knew because I didn't look like my 2 older brothers who were white or my parents who were both very white. I grew up in a very white community too, so I stood out. Me and my sister were the only Asians in our class. So it was just kind of, we always knew we were not biologically related, but we just knew that we were still family. They were still my brothers, they were still my parents. Again, you only know what you're taught, so if you're only taught that this is what a family is, then that's the only thing you know. So I didn't have any issues. I mean, I have like abandonment issues, but again, like that is completely different because I am aware that I was left and not wanted necessarily and for some reason, whereas this child's super wanted, or these children are very much wanted, you know, so it's different. And when I did start asking questions, you know, it really didn't make a difference to me because again, all I knew was my mom is my mom and my dad is my dad, so I mean, that was an issue.
This is a really good question. It says, Lisa, if later down the road, after you become pregnant and baby has arrived, say Kelly gets baby fever and decides she would love to have another baby, and since she can't have any more babies, would you, Lisa and Bill, consider caring for Kelly and her husband? That would be so sweet of you if so. God bless your journey, and Lisa, God bless your journey to motherhood. If I had a baby and my pregnancy was didn't have any issues, I wasn't high risk, I didn't have any problems, I would absolutely do that.
Let's get this clear. Kelly doesn't want any more babies, and neither does John. You know, I think baby fever, I totally get it. I've had it before, even, you know, when I watch other people's kids, but I don't think baby fever is enough reason to have another child. And we can't afford to do transfers.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't even know how Lisa and Bill are doing this, because they're just expensive. But, I mean, yeah, it's very sweet, but you don't want
That was a good question,
You don't need
though.
to worry about us asking.
Somebody really thought about that question. It was a good question. All right. But anyway, we would. How cool would that be? Like, you donate, and then I carry for you.
Oh.
That's like a Springer episode.
Yeah. Where's Maury Povich when you need him?
All right, this one says, this whole journey intrigues me so much. I love that you're both doing this. My question for your questions and answers for Kelly. Why don't you want to be a godmother? I kind of thought it would be so fitting. I understand if you don't want to answer. I was just curious. You would make a great godmother, and it would be so special.
Well, first off, don't you have to be, like, Catholic?
I think that's a Catholic
Isn't that
tradition.
a Catholic
I think,
thing?
yeah.
I mean, my kids don't have godmothers or godparents. They have guardians, like legal guardians, if I should die and John should die. But we don't really do the godmother thing because
We wouldn't either, yeah.
I'm pretty positive it's like the title's like to lead them in their religious whatnot.
Right.
And I mean, well, that's that. That's the answer. We
Yeah.
don't believe in godmothers. I mean, I will be, like I said in the previous video, I'll be anything that Lisa and Bill want me to be to their kids. And, you know, just like they're very close to my kids and their Auntie Lisa and Uncle Bill, like that's kind of, you know, if they allow me to, that's what I'll be to their kids. And I'll be here if they ever need anything or have any questions or need whatnot. You know, like I'll just be here for whatever capacity. But yeah, we don't really do godparents.
We're not Catholic, so we're not gonna do that either. Okay, this one says another one for you. It says, Kelly, I think in the last video you said something about 3 kids. Not that I don't like 3 kids or something like that.
Too much, yeah.
Somebody said, why do you not like 3 as in for the number for kids? Is it too many or too few?
It's not that it's too many. John and I actually kind of, in our new situation with Ava's father, it's kind of like having 2.5 kids now because Ava's gone half of the time. She's gone every other week. So every other week we only have 2 kids, and every other week we have 3. I'm not saying that in a way that like I don't have any love for her during the week she's gone. I'm just saying like energy-wise, she's not here once a week, you know, every other week. But I don't like having the number 3, and I think Bill doesn't like that either because it's not an even number. It's super easy to just have 2 because there's 2 parents. Like, once they start out numbering you, it's just so much harder. I don't know how people have, like, 3 under 4. Like, that would, I would seriously collapse under exhaustion because just 2 at this age is really hard. I don't know, you guys have been around all 3 of them now. I mean, it's exhausting, bedtime, everything. But when you have 2 parents and one can manhandle one and the other, it's easier. But when you have 3, not only is the uneven number kind of hard because somebody's left out sometimes, but it's also just, you don't feel like you have enough to give to all 3 of them, if that makes sense. Like, it's just, I don't know. There's always just one left out, whether it be a parent, you know, with one-on-one, or just them as a group of 3 and then one being left out.
And that's kind of what Bill had said too, like when we talked about how many kids we want to have. This was before we even had infertility problems, when we were just daydreaming. I said 2 and he would say 2 or 4. And I would say 4 is like something I've always wanted because I have a really big family. But he said not 3 because he grew up with 2 brothers, and he said one of them was always the odd man out, and he didn't want that for his kids. So
I grew up in 4, so I always had like my sister or my brother. Like, you go through phases of which one was like you were closest to growing up.
Right.
So yeah.
So, but Ava's a really big help too.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a big
I've
enough
seen her.
gap.
She's really good with
There's
the
a big
kids.
enough gap with
Yeah.
Ava age-wise that she doesn't, I don't think, ever feel left out because she's on a whole new level than the other 2. So
Oh,
that's
yeah,
really
she's
nice.
good.
But yeah.
Okay, this one says, will you or have you thought about letting Kelly be in the room when you have your baby, Lisa? I think this is a blessing for you. Bill, Kelly and I talked about this, and I think we kind of said, I wouldn't mind if she was in the room, but I said it'd probably just FaceTime because it'll be easier because you really can't time that
I live
moment.
5 to 6 hours away,
Yeah.
and I'm still even a plane ride.
Yeah.
It would still be like 3 or 4 hours because of the time you're at the airport and all that. Like, it's not just a quick, okay, I'll be there.
I'll be right there, yeah.
Yeah, unless
So-
you have like a super long labor, which I would not
Right.
wish on you.
No.
And also, it's their time. You know, when you work, like me and John, were the only two in the room with my mom for my last two pregnant deliveries, and it was just really special, it just being us. And I would really want that for Lisa and Bill, just to be able to enjoy the delivery of their children that they've worked so hard to have. You know, it's just a really special moment. Like, I wouldn't want to take anything away from that. I think it's a good time for, you know, the husband and the wife to just enjoy becoming parents.
I would want Bill and my mom probably in with me. And then we would probably FaceTime Kelly. Like, that's what our relationship is 90% of the time anyway.
I want to see everything, camera.
So there it is. Okay, this says, Lisa, I'm not sure if you're willing to discuss, but I would be interested in open embryo adoption, as my husband and I have 6 frozen embryos. I don't know how people feel about the idea. I would love to know some of the fears of donating and fears of receiving. Perhaps Kelly would be a good resource. Either way, I'd have so much love for you both. This is exactly what I want to do to help other people. Your miracle's on the way, it says. So
Embryo
fears,
donation would mean that the sperm would also be the other
it means
person's, right?
the embryo.
Yeah, because it's
would,
an egg
somebody
until
would
it's
adopt
fertilized.
the whole embryo. Yeah.
Well, I think part of the donation part is that Lisa really wants to have one of them be genetically linked to the child, so that's
we want to
Bill.
try everything possible to before we move forward with adoption or anything like that. We wanted to try anything possible to have it be part of one of us. So that's why we're doing this, because it could still be part Bill. But I mean, I would be open. I'd have to learn more about it, and I don't know. I'd really have to search, like search that database for an embryo to adopt.
And how expensive it would be.
Right, because ultimately my whole thing is I want to carry the baby. Like I want to have that whole pregnancy experience, and so that's really big for me. So yeah, that would be in line before we were just going to adopt a baby. So that, and then probably surrogacy, because surrogacy, then you could also you're getting a baby, you're getting a newborn baby, So you could at least, if you get gypped of the pregnancy part, you could at least still take home a brand new baby. So, yeah.
Well, no, what are your fears? We have to address that.
My fears?
Or if you have any.
My fears are that I might not get pregnant. I don't know. I don't know if my body could do it.
My fears as a donor is the quality of my eggs. We're right now facing this, am I going to respond to the drugs fast enough? Talking to nurses and doctors, it's like, one day it's like, yay, everything's good, and the next day it's like, oh, you're not doing so well, and it's just like this emotional roller coaster. So right now I've been doing a lot of retail therapy, but I would say my biggest fear as a donor is not providing what I want to provide for them, which is a good quality and quantity of eggs for them, and I don't want to say wasting their money, but essentially, yeah, wasting their money. I would hate to see that happen. So that's my biggest fear as a donor, is just not coming or doing what I want to do for them, kind of.
Nice. All right. When the baby or babies get older, will you be sharing with them what's in the legal contract?
I don't think there's anything weird in our legal contract, though. Like, there's no, like, weird...
The only stuff in the contract, which we're not getting into specifics, but it only has to do with like what we're doing right now, like her giving the eggs and us, it's just the actions taking place now. So it really has nothing to do with
all the future stuff. We cut out.
Yeah.
Because there was some stuff that was like, when you notify the child of this or that or whatnot, and Lisa and I were just like, this is stupid. Like, they're gonna know.
Like Ava knows already.
We're best friends. They're gonna know.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, if they want to see it,
there was something that said like you have to give me
7 days written notice
before
I tell my kids, and I'm like, whoops,
they already know already. Like,
already knows,
we're open about it. It's not, so we took a lot out, but yeah. So there's really nothing in the contract.
It's kind of like adoption papers, I think. Like I saw my adoption papers the second I asked for them. My mom was like, here you go, and I saw them, but it was until 13 that I really wanted to see them. So
right.
I don't know.
Okay, so here's a good question. Are you and Kelly going to address the rules that she has to follow once this process gets moving along, such as restrictions on intimacy due to the fact that her fertility is ramped up, and other little details that people might not think of?
There is no ramping over here. First off, we're staying with Lisa and Bill.
She's like 2 doors away from my bedroom.
And if you guys, like right now, probably everyone in the house can hear what we're talking about right now, because it's very open, but John and I, well, first off, Depo killed my sex drive completely. And second off, we have 3 kids, so we're exhausted. And third off, like, I'm so bloated right now, and these drugs and my emotional up and down, like, nobody wants to be near me like that. Like, John does not, like, well, maybe he does, but, we that's not something we need to be concerned about at all. And I can't get pregnant.
Right.
Like, I think that's the important thing is I have had a tubal and an ablation. I cannot get pregnant.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. This says, my heart goes out to you, Lisa. Do you think it costs less to use a known donor? In all honesty, it seems like you're paying just as much, if not more, by the time all is said and done. I wish you the best and many healthy babies.
I'm glad they asked this question.
It is almost, I don't want to say almost double, but it's almost double if we were to use an unknown donor. It would cost almost probably like $18,000 more if we were to use an unknown donor, just based on the agency fees and the fees that you pay to the donor and then travel for the donor, all kinds of stuff like that. So it is a lot cheaper. Kelly is saving me a lot of money.
Well, that's why we wanted to stay with Lisa and Bill. Like, we're really blessed that we can stay here because then I'm not stuck in a hotel somewhere.
And we offered them to stay at a hotel, but they're comfortable enough to stay here, so that made me feel good. But no, it costs a lot less to use a known donor. I mean, so I'm going to do a whole separate cost breakdown video once this whole process is over and I have a grand total, but no, it's a lot more expensive.
It's a lot more stressful, though, because a lot of the heavy work has been put on me and Lisa, as we've explained in previous updates, and that's only because we don't have an agency or a broker doing all of this work. Right. Yeah, so it's more work, but it's cheaper. It's cheaper, yeah. It's a lot more expensive, depending, I guess, what state you're in, too, because donors get paid way differently in every state, so there you go. Which I want to address that real quick. I've been getting a lot of comments from people, which I've just been deleting them because I don't have time for them, is that, how do you make money from this? I really want to do this to make money, blah, 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 blah. I can't answer that question because I'm not doing this for money, and I think it's kind of inappropriate for people to ask me that question, because I don't think you should just be doing it for money. I think that this is a very emotional and serious procedure, and to just do it for financial reasons, I don't know if I don't want to be helpful, I guess, to that, because it's just the emotional part and physical part that I've already gone through. I think that young women really need to think about a lot more, and if you're just contacting me asking how to make money, I'm just not into playing that game. So that was one of the frequent questions I've been getting. There you go, there's that answer. All right. Just wondering, I guess this is for me, what are your work plans for after the baby comes? You mentioned in a previous vlog that you're working at your job to help pay for fertility treatments. What about when the baby's cooking? After the baby comes, I would like to stay home. After the baby comes, I do want to stay home. I do hair, so I'm able to do that and be home. And I also do Tastefully Simple and Scentsy, so that's all income coming in from other places. But I feel like I've worked so hard to have a baby that I want to stay home. Like, I don't want to pay somebody else. I don't want to pay someone else to watch them, because it's just, this is what I want. Like, this is my ultimate goal, is to be a mom and stay home with my kids. I mean, so yeah. And then while I'm working, if I could work through my whole pregnancy, I will. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know what to expect. This one says, I've been following your journey from the beginning. My question is, and because I work in the medical field, have you started thinking about your first pediatrician's appointment? I'm curious as to how you will fill out your new patient paperwork for your baby, since none of it will include your family medical history. Also, have you and Bill thought about how you will address the story behind your child's biological mother? I'm curious if he or she will ever know. Okay. Well, she knows. They're going to know. Mm-hmm. They're going to know Kelly is Auntie Kelly. You guys know, the kid's going to find out somehow. If the kid is going to know Kelly as Auntie Kelly until they're old enough to understand what went on. And then, what about the first pediatrician's appointment? I mean, when I have to take my kids, because I'm just going to say this because technically it'll probably be the same situation. When I write the family history for my children, for the mother's side, there's like a mother's and a father's side. For the mother's side, I always write that I'm adopted, but then if I have specific things, like I have endometriosis, I had childhood like stress-induced asthma, but that I don't think is always hereditary. But like I'll write what things that I had, but then everything else I write adopted for. So I would assume that that's what you would do for them, the biological mother side. And if Lisa had any questions, she could call me and I could just help her fill it out or whatnot. But then you would be able to fill out Bill's full side. Right. Because they know that. Yeah. All right.
Hey Lisa, not that I'm in any position to request a video, but if you get time, can you do a vlog about what you plan to do post-transfer to help with success? I know that some people do bed rest, some don't, some eat certain things. Curious what your specific plan is, since you guys are clearly so invested in this cycle. What do they say, 24 to 48 hours of just not like laying down bed rest because you want circulation still, you want the blood flow and everything, but like just chilling, maybe just laying on the couch.
Which is not so easy
chilling
for
out.
her to do.
I have a problem, yeah, I can't sit still. That, I did the pineapple core before. I'm probably not going to do that this time. You know, all these people I've been watching, Crystal didn't do any of that. She had twins. So like it just is like some people do it, some people don't. I don't think I'm going to do it. I did it all last time and it didn't work for me. So
I think if there was some magical thing to do, the doctor would tell you.
Right.
I mean, I'm
just going to take it easy and keep eating healthy and keep hydrated, and that's it.
Keep everything crossed.
Yeah, I have Brazil nuts still left from last cycle. Maybe I'll eat a few Brazil nuts because that's another thing. Keep your feet warm, somebody told me. That's what my acupuncturist told me too. Make sure you wear socks and keep your feet warm, and don't drink any cold fluids. Like, just drink everything room temperature. And I actually do. That's how I drink water now because I've been doing that since last cycle. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, glad all is going well. Quick question. Why do you have to have a psychological evaluation? I understand that Kelly would, but I'm confused as why you would need one. I think for the same reason that Kelly would. They want to make sure that we understand what's happening and what we're doing. And I think for us it was different though because it's a known donor, so.
I think that it was because for me, I think it was a lot to do with, I think they just wanted to make sure we were both going to be physically and emotionally okay with sharing eggs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because some people I think that maybe run the risk of being really angry about the fact that, or resentful that the child isn't biologically theirs maybe,
right.
or vice versa with the donor. And I think that's the whole purpose of the evaluation, is just to make sure we understand the emotions. Because didn't she ask you a bunch of like crazy questions like, no, you're going to understand, and what if somebody mistakes
somebody
you?
passes you in the store and says, oh, you know, is your kid adopted? How are you going to answer that? And you're going to go into the whole story. Well, no, I used an egg donor. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But that, and then she also gave us like resources to go to, like websites and stuff for as the kid is getting older, just like how to explain to them about egg donor things, which will be a little different for us too because it's not an unknown donor. So that's why we needed one. She just wants to make sure your head's in the right place. So, yeah.
To make sure I wasn't giving my eggs to some crazy people.
but the psychologist really liked Kelly, so she said she had a good head on her shoulders. So.
Boy, was she wrong.
Oh. All right, this says, Bill is so supportive and sweet. I also follow Kelly, and she mentioned a few times she does not know her family history or anything since she was adopted. So what exactly does the gender test reveal about her? At what point would the doctor not recommend her as a donor?
Gender test. Genetic
test. Like, what kind of results would have to come back for them to say...
Gender test. I'm a woman.
What kind of results would have to come back for them to say no? And is Bill also going to be tested?
Was Bill tested? No.
No. Only if yours came back abnormal, then Bill would have to be tested.
2 abnormal would automatically mean 100% or something.
So, yeah. So what does she have to be? It tests for abnormalities that would cause a disorder.
Like maybe like mentally handicapped, or like if you're over 35 and you had to, they would suggest probably to get your eggs tested or something, you know, to make sure that your eggs aren't of bad quality. Right. I think, kind of. I don't know. Just anything that would be. What is that? There's a test for what is it? Chromosome 13 or something. It's a very bad genetic thing. Just like testing for stuff like that that would make mean a
like
fatality.
Red flags,
or yes, yeah.
At what point would the doctor not recommend her as a donor? I think if you're what they were looking for, one way that they would have said no, that you couldn't donate to us, is your AMH, right? Mm-hmm. So they wanted it to be a certain level, and Kelly blew that away, and then
follicle count's another thing.
The follicle count too,
which I'm actually at the low end for, but because I'm younger and my AMH was good, and I had 3 kids, and I just had one of those like less than 2 years ago, they thought that I'd be all right.
Yeah.
But I would not have been a good candidate for an unknown donor. They did tell me that because of my follicle count at its resting point and because I do have endo, they wouldn't have suggested me as an unknown donor. But because they know me, that changed.
The numbers with unknown donors need to be a little bit higher. It's kind of crazy because the nurse had said the other day with an unknown donor, wouldn't they have canceled? They would have canceled the cycle if there was only like 15 follicles
Mature
or something.
follicles,
like
yeah.
That's
Which
crazy.
If Lisa were to be getting it done for retrieval, they would have done it for a minimum of 4.
Right.
So it's like quadrupled or something for an unknown. But I get that because if you're spending
Right.
that much money on somebody
Right.
that you don't know, you want to make sure you get a good batch of eggs.
But I think even my doctor had said that one of her last clients used a known donor, and the AMH was way below. Like it was way below what it needed to be, and the person still wanted to use them because they wanted to use them. So you ultimately get to make the decision. You know, we're looking for quality, not quantity. Yeah. So that's our main thing here. And then it also says, will they determine whether or not they are compatible? Yeah, that's what they do. I mean, if hers came back good, then we're good. But if hers came back bad, then Bill would have to be tested.
But we don't know they don't test whether or not Bill's sperm is going to react well to my eggs, though, if that's
Right.
what that question meant. Because that is one thing that the psychologist made sure to tell me was, you know, if that part doesn't work, it's not my fault, you know, because, what did she call it? Spontaneous pregnancies are different than forced pregnancies, is what she told me. Mm-hmm. She said that not all the time do things react well. Like some people can't get pregnant on their own because the sperm doesn't cooperate well with the egg.
Right.
So that's why sperm donors are there.
Right.
So.
And then this says, I know a lot of parents, myself included, are reluctant to share their children on video, social media. So how much of the pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and of course the baby are you planning on sharing? I'm sharing it. I mean, I'm sharing this part. I want to share my pregnancy. I'm going to do pregnancy vlogs. Birth, I'd have to talk to Bill about that, but I totally would love to get parts of it. I mean, I don't want, any crazy angles, but as long as people are up here looking down, we're good. Yeah. But I mean, you guys are all pretty much invested in this, and you have been for a couple of years now, so I feel like...
I think the kids' question's too hard to answer because you don't know how you'll feel until you're mama bear protecting,
right.
You know? I get an anxiety sometimes with how much I share of my kids, but... I don't know.
I think I'll probably video just for my own sake, to keep for my own memories and stuff, and I'll probably vlog. Back. But and then any pictures I learned from her, I'll probably end up watermarking all of them just because people are crazy.
They are crazy.
So, but yeah, I don't have any issues with that. Lisa, what is your timeline? I've seen Kelly's updates, but how long after her egg harvest do you get IVF? When does Bill go in?
Like an alien.
Will you implant 2 or still wait to see quality? Whenever her retrieval is, my transfer will be 5 days after her retrieval. Bill goes in the same day as her retrieval because he has to be there to do that. And I'm guessing we're probably going to implant 2. I'm going to pretty much let the doctor tell me what they want me to do.
I hope you do.
I would like to. We're not doing PGD testing. My doctor said we don't need it with Kelly's stats, so we're not, yeah, I mean, I'd like to put 2 in. That would be okay. All right, Kelly, were you expecting all of the shots that went along with this back when you offered Lisa and Bill your eggs, or did Lisa warn you since she has been through IVF cycles? Are you okay with the shots, or did you have to prepare yourself?
I totally knew how many shots and stuff because I watched Lisa's videos. I watched other people's videos. Me and Lisa FaceTimed. We talked about them. I mean, she didn't warn me because there was no need. I wouldn't have offered my eggs without knowing everything. You know what I mean? Like, obviously there were some unknowns that we weren't aware of, like how much work there would be in regards to like scheduling, how long I'd be out here, and like the legal stuff. But in regards to like all the physical stuff, I would not have signed on for this or offered my eggs a year ago had I not known everything physically that I'd have to go through, because obviously that's like the most important thing, right, is staying healthy. So I wasn't surprised by those at all. I wasn't surprised by it. I'm handling the shots fine. I'm bruising a little bit, which somebody, I forget, I think Tony commented on one of my videos asking or telling me that I should spread out my shots. And I do want to just say this, if you've been watching my videos, I have only been doing below my belly button to the left and the right by 2 inches, and that's why they're bruising. It's because it's in the same condensed area, because that's the only places I'm allowed to do them. For fertility drugs, that's the only place that you're allowed to do them. So I can't just like haphazardly do them all over my belly, else I totally would. But yeah, it's been going perfectly fine. Lisa's been doing all my beds for me, and all I have to do is just shoot them into my belly. So yeah.
So you expected all of it?
I expected all of it, yeah.
And this other part for me says, is it easier or harder to stay positive during a donor cycle versus a typical IVF cycle? I think that from the beginning, going through all the IUIs and then the first IVF and then the second IVF, I think it kind of builds you up for disappointment. So you just kind of become numb to it. So it's sad, but it's not any easier or harder for me. It's just kind of neutral. I'm fully prepared if anything were to get canceled. I'm fully prepared for it just because of my past. I mean, I think the past helps you build up that hardness, which is bad to say, but it kind of prepares you for the worst. And then if anything good comes out of it, it's a bonus. I mean, this is a risk we had to take, so it's something we wanted to take, because you don't get a chance like this nobody gets chances like this almost. So we took it, and if it works, it's a bonus. That's the way Bill and I are looking at it. We're hoping it works.
I'm not ready for. I don't think she'll have to console me. I will be heartbroken. Sounds terrible.
She has to understand it's not going to be her fault if it's not. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's okay.
I'm gonna start crying.
No.
I can't think about it.
All right. So those were my questions.
Okay.
What do you have?
So I have some questions from people that left them on Facebook. Do you want to check your Instagram?
Wait.
Okay. So I have some questions from people on my Facebook. This is from Brittany Nolan. She asked, "I'm not sure if you've answered this and I missed it. My son tries to flirt with you and Kaya every time I play a video. And in the future, would you tell the kids that they are all related or no? And how would you go about it?"
That's a good question.
It is a good question. Ava's actually already addressed this kind of. When we were in the car randomly, I asked her if she knew I was going out to Chicago. It was when I flew out for my first initial appointment, and she was like, yeah, she goes, you went to go get a checkup because you're giving Auntie Lisa your eggs. And I said, do you know why I'm giving her my eggs? And she goes, so that Lisa can have babies of her own. And I said, yes. And I said, I said, are you going to be related to the babies? And she goes, we'll be like cousins, right? And that's based,
that's what we're going for.
That's what we're going for in regards to like the genetic and them knowing, okay, hey, I kind of look like this person, but we're not related. I think if they ask when they're older, sure, there will probably be an open conversation if they want to know. But honestly, like, I come from a family where all of the cousins, literally, because my sister is Korean but not adopted from the same family as I was, none of us look alike. So I have 4 nieces. They're all white, blonde hair, blue eyes. So none of them look like my children, but they're very close and they know their cousins. So
that's cool.
Yes.
So it's normal.
Yeah. So yes, they'll be related because we're so close that we're like family, and they'll know that. But in regards to the biological part, I don't think we'll address that until they're old enough to understand it. Like if they ask, Ava's 9, and she was asking those questions. She knows that she's getting my eggs, and that's going to develop into her babies. 9 years old, who knows,
Right.
So my 2 youngest are almost 2 and then just turned 4, so they could not even comprehend that right now if we even tried. But I don't think, at least in our household, we're going to have a closed dialogue. We talk about this they're all sitting around in the house.
We're going to talk about it openly, yeah.
Yeah, so
I think if you talk about it openly,
there won't need to be that initial
there won't be any awkwardness or if it's out in the open, it'll just be normal.
Yeah, so we won't have to sit down and say, okay, this is what's going on, 6 years in advance. They'll just always know.
Right.
So
I think that's good.
Katie Walker asks, I absolutely love you both, very strong ladies. My question is, how are Bill and John feeling about everything and all that is taking place? Hugs and prayers. So again, leave questions below if you have them for John and Bill. But in my opinion, John's really hard to read. But he basically, if you follow my videos, he just wants me to be happy. And he knows that this process and doing this for Lisa is making me extremely happy. So he was excited. He's been pretty passionate this last week with our, okay, are we going to be on schedule for retrieval? Is it going to be canceled? Is it going to go through? He's involved and invested, and I mean, he and I are both honored to be able to do this for them. So I think John's feeling good about it, especially since I'm feeling good. I mean, he's feeling good.
Bill's kind of like me. He's just kind of, he's like, when we get a positive pregnancy test, then I'll feel good. Like, that's how he feels, you know. So, but he's awesome. Like, he's an awesome support, and anything we want to do, he's pretty much open to, and he'll try it. And yeah, he's good though. He's excited, but at the same time, he's trying to keep it neutral also, so that, you know.
Because he's been through all the ups and downs with you. I mean, he's had all the heartbreaks with you, so.
He's a great support. I don't know. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be able to do this without him, but he's like the perfect person for me to be going through this with, so.
John and Bill are a lot alike. Like somebody said that me and Lisa share a lot of the same traits, and John and Bill, I think, share a lot of the same traits. So it's kind of like you see them together and you're kind of like, oh, that makes sense. And they're both just very supportive. They're not overly excited. Like John basically said, what was it?
Wait, we were at a barbecue Sunday, and this lady goes to John. She goes, "Are you Bill's brother?" And he goes, "No, we're just the egg donors."
She didn't know who we were. Nobody really did introductions, but
we're just the egg donors.
John, before we started this process, like before we really started it, like after we'd already talked and they'd agreed to take our eggs, John was like, I go, "Are you excited, John? You know, are you getting excited?" And John's like, "I'm not going to be excited until Lisa's like 3 months pregnant, so that I know it's like going to stay." You know, he's invested. He's excited, you know.
I walked in from work the other day, and he was sitting at the table, and I said, "Hey, John," I go, "what are you doing?" And he goes, "Just waiting for eggs just waiting for eggs to go.
Just waiting for the eggs." You were like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" He's like, "Same thing.
Same thing.
Just waiting for the eggs."
So funny.
So yeah, they're
good.
They're good. Okay, next question is from Jessica D. Sutton. My question is, do your parents, family, friends know, and how do they feel about it? Love and prayers to you both. My family knows. My mom is very invested as well. It's funny, when Lisa's first IVF failed, I was so upset for her, and I went to my mom's house, and my mom, of course, asked immediately, "How's Lisa doing? Did the IVF go?" And I told her, I said it failed, and I was so upset. And my mom goes, "Why don't you just give her your eggs?" And that's when I was just like, and actually, I think I'd already talked to you about it. I mentioned it, and I said I already tried it, and they didn't want them. Like not in a mean way, but it was just like that's how much my parents are supportive about this, and how much, because they adopted their kids. It's just normal for us. Yeah. And so they're just really excited. They've been really helpful. My mom's checking up on our house. We almost had to do this weird schedule with Ava that meant them taking our kids and shuffling them and, watching them. And they just wanted to do that and were super helpful because they want this too. They're all just on board. And, my sister and her girlfriend, obviously they're lesbians, so egg donation isn't crazy to them either. And my brothers, they're the same way. Like everybody in my family and all of my friends are just super supportive, so they all know on my side. But
my whole family knows, like my whole side, and Bill's family, just a couple people know, but the rest of his family, we're just going to hold off and wait until we get pregnant to tell them, just because they live out of state and we don't want to tell them over the phone or explain this to them over the phone, and they're not going to fully understand what we're doing, so we need to sit down and have a conversation with them face to face. So we're going to wait, and if we get pregnant, we will tell them, and if we don't, then there's no need for anybody to know, I feel like. So, yeah.
And her parents, I mean, they're just so sweet, and her brother, we just met them. I just met them in person for the first time because I FaceTimed with her mom a few times. But we went over for lunch. They had us over dinner a few days ago, and they're just excited, and I think her mom just wants her to be happy, and her dad just wants her to be happy, and that's kind of how everybody feels that knows, is they just want them to be happy and have a family. And I mean, it's been
my family's super supportive. Like they're very, I think they all liked your page, and every time you post something, I see my family commenting, and it's
her brother just subscribed to my channel. Hi, John.
That's so funny.
And even John's parents. John told his parents, which you guys know, like if you follow my channel, that we have kind of a not bad relationship, but they're not just as understanding, about usual stuff that most people would be. And even his mom was like, "That's so interesting. Like that's so great." So. I mean, everybody's just everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on board. Sarah Blackler. Here are my questions for both of you. What are your thoughts on the donor process so far? And if you could change one thing about the process, what would that be? Go Team Flamingo.
You want to go first? Or
you can go first.
My thoughts on the process, it's a lot different than an IVF. I will say that. Like if you're doing an IVF for yourself, it's a lot more emotional. There's a lot more involved. So it's just a lot different. And then if I could change one thing, probably communication with doctors, nurses, lawyers. I would change.
And even each other.
Yeah, more communication. You know, so.
What was the question again? Thoughts on the process. So far, my thoughts on the process so far is that if it weren't me and Lisa, I don't think it would have worked. Like, there have been numerous times where because of lack of communication, and not because we weren't talking, but because you can only say so much through text messages and FaceTime, where you can like feel how each other's feeling, like sitting next to each other. And I think there are a lot of times due to poor communication where, especially towards the end, I'm getting to this point where I was so concerned about how Lisa was feeling and how our friendship was handling just all of the stress. It was hard at times, you know, whether it was because of the lawyer stuff or because of, you know, just the stress, you know, and it would have been so much easier, I think, had we been together at that point to just kind of
or in the same town to say, hey, I'm going to come over for a minute. Let me talk to you, you know.
And because things just get misread or misunderstood. And so I think that if I would have been doing this with anybody else, which I wouldn't have offered this to anybody else, I think we probably would have failed a while ago. And the process itself is just so emotional, and that's, again, brings me back to like being paid to do it. If you're just doing it for financial reasons, I don't know how you do it because it's just so emotional.
Yep.
And then if I could change one thing about it, honestly, it wouldn't be any of the physical stuff. It wouldn't even be the emotional stuff. It'd be the same thing as what Lisa said, which would be communication, because lack of communication with lawyers caused a lot of, not grief between us, but like tension.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but just, again, because we were both so worried about how each other were feeling. And then also lack of communication, because I've talked to the doctor twice. Since this whole process started, I've talked to her now twice. And so, you know, just the communication between the nurses and the doctor even seemed to be skewed. And then just like the ultrasound techs and nobody gives you a straight answer, and they're always different. So I would say the communication part would be the thing that I would change, because that's just been the most difficult. And honestly, I think that if you do an unknown egg donor, I think a lot of the emotional stuff would be different, because me and Lisa care about each other so much that added on an unknown stress factor.
A lot on.
Yeah, because we're both so concerned about how each other's feeling. So with an unknown egg donor, I think it's easier to just be like, I mean, not to be cold, but you don't have that emotional connection with that person to worry about how they're feeling necessarily.
That's what Bill said about the legal part. Like, he was like, if it was an unknown, we'd be like, no, just leave that in.
Yeah.
We don't care. But because we care about them, we wanted it different. So yeah. But and adding on to what you said, I had a hard time with communication, because I was telling Kelly this. I don't have any friends that live out of state that I can't see face to face. So just texting with her or Facebooking with her and then talking about serious stuff like this, it is hard to read text messages sometimes. So like,
or if you don't respond back immediately because you're busy and you're like, oh God, are they mad at me? Like, usually you wouldn't think that way. Like, we're not needy like that, but because this is such a tension-filled thing, it's like 5 minutes feels like 6 hours.
And I'm a person that I need to sit by her and talk to her and see her face to see how she's feeling, rather than just read a text.
She's
so
John. I'm
that
Bill.
really bothered me. I had a hard time with that whole part of it, because I needed her in front of me rather than over text, but we got through it.
And what didn't help also is I was sick. I was very sick. If you follow my channel, you know I was like not on social medias for a while, and I wasn't doing videos. I was so sick the week before we came out here. So getting the energy to FaceTime and stuff like was hard. So it was just, you know. But again,
we did it, so it's
any other person, I don't think we would have made it. But,
it would have been rough.
Okay. Oh, and good lawyers. Get a good lawyer. Like seriously, talk with your lawyer and get a good lawyer. I will say that. But
and if anybody needs a lawyer in Chicago, message us, because we have good lawyers.
She was good. Penelope Lyons, as you are both such good friends, how will you feel about explaining what you've been through to the child? Would you explain it at the right time when they're old enough? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, and I don't know how else to word it. Sorry. What?
When they're old enough, probably, right?
I think when they just start asking questions. I mean, I don't think I don't think I ever, like, went to my parents and was like, how tough was the adoption situation? You know, like, I mean, certain questions come out as an adult just because I want to know about parenting issues, but I mean, I don't think I've ever, like, asked my mom and dad, like, straight up questions like that. So, I mean, again, if we keep an open line of communication, I don't think there's going to be any issue.
Right.
But, yeah. On a cruise, I have seen how stressful this can be for the both of you and your families and friends. What are each of you doing to relieve stress? I'm praying very hard for both of you. Is there anything I and or we can do? Are there things that we shouldn't do or say, aka things that don't help? Actually, that's a really good question because I know that for me, I don't like people telling me, like, this will work, don't worry, this will work, or stuff like that, I guess, because it's just like, I'm at an emotional state where I'm like, you can't guarantee that.
Right.
So stop saying that, kind of. I mean, I don't get mad. I love the positivity. I just wish when I get negative, people aren't like, oh, stop it, it'll work. You know what I mean? Because it's like, but it might not, you know? And I think there's a need for that realistic view, else, you know, there's more disappointment, like she was saying about, you know, having disappointment all the way up to here helps you deal with the disappointment later. Yeah. Kind of, if that makes sense. I don't know.
That's true, yeah.
What do you not like people saying?
I don't know, I actually haven't had anything almost that people have said negative to me. I mean, I haven't had to delete comments or anything yet, but I think the thing that annoyed me in the beginning, like when we were starting and we were ordering the drugs and everything, is when people were leaving comments for you and saying, oh, the Lupron kills, oh, that shot's gonna hurt. Oh, I'm like, stop putting that in her head, because... Well,
no, people were doing that to you, too, of your procedures that you were having to go through before. Like, that's terrible, be careful, that thing hurts like a...
The saline sauna histogram or whatever,
Which she'd already had before, and it didn't hurt. You know, I wish people would not put their fears or their experiences on me. I mean, it's one thing to share your experience, but it's another thing to freak somebody out for no reason.
Everyone's different, I feel like everybody's body's going to react different, so...
Yeah, and some of the unasked for, unsolicited advice, I sometimes have issues with that, which I think anybody has with, like, parenting or pregnancy or stuff like that. Like, just because some of the stuff people don't understand. Like, somebody left me a comment on a video saying, you know, you should take ibuprofen instead of Percocet. And it's kind of like, if you've been following my previous videos, you know that I'm not allowed to take ibuprofen because it is I just can't take it. It's like a blood thinner or something. So I have to take Percocet. You know, so it's stuff like that where I wish people would maybe, if they don't know my whole situation, not give me unsolicited advice, because it just kind of is more stressful on my part. And then also, like, in the beginning, and even sometimes still, I delete those comments of, like, I can't believe you're doing this, or why are you doing this for free, or what do you get out of this, or another comment is, like, how are you going to feel when your child... I hate that. It's not my child. It's an egg. I'm giving it to Lisa so that she can have her own child. So that would be what bothers me. But I love all the positivity. I love all the kind comments. I love all the prayers and people leaving, you know, these little emojis or like, you know, thumbs up and stuff. Like, I love that. That is what's helpful, I think, to both me and Lisa. Or the thumbs ups, the likes. I mean, they're so materialistic and lame, but it just shows us that, like, there are people rooting for this situation. So.
It's so cool that I post on my Facebook, going for my appointment tomorrow morning to find out this, this, and this, and I'll post something about our appointment, and like 20 minutes later there's like 130 people that liked that, and it makes me feel like everybody's going with me to the appointment,
because
almost.
You can envision this room full of 130 people, and like, you're like, this feels good, you know. It's
They're all holding flamingos.
Yeah. And you know, I'm not a usual superstitious, whatever that word is, person, but every single time where something's maybe been a little bit delayed in my appointments and I've said something on Facebook and people have liked it or said prayers or vibes or, you know, thinking of you, no joke, I've gone into the next appointment and it's been like, you just grew 11 follicles, you know, or stuff like that. So that, I think you put positive energy out there and it really works. And so that's what's helpful, I think, for both of us. It's just knowing that there are people who are standing with us in this, because Lord knows we could use it right now. So
it still shocks me how many people are like invested in this. Like I can't believe it, and I appreciate it. So
Okay, so there's 2 more questions. P. Christy Estrada, which she left a comment on yours too, I think, or Kirsty. How will you treat your endo after the retrieval? I will do an entire endo video after all this is said and done, because a lot of people have been asking about that. I have been feeling great this week, which I was not expecting. I think last week was my endo attack, because I just gotten off my birth control. So that was a hard week for me. But how I will treat my endo after this is I have a Depo-Provera pen waiting on the table over there to take with me to my retrieval date. They're going to shoot me in the butt with it right before I leave, right after they retrieve the eggs. So that way, hopefully, the Depo will get back into my system and I can maybe hop over that next cycle, which is when I have my pain. The Depo worked for me for 6 months. The second they shot that into me, I had pain the first month, but then after that, I was pain-free and endo, pain-free. So that's how I'll treat it. If that doesn't work, the next step would be actually Lupron, which again was kind of why I was a little upset that people were telling me how terrible it was, because that would have been my next step anyways. And then if that doesn't work, a partial hysterectomy might be in my future. I am possibly going to get the endometrioma that's in my right ovary. I might get the fluid ejected from that, because that could be why I'm having a lot of pain. But if you're not familiar with endo, you might not understand this, but your body's attacking itself, basically, and that's what causes the pain. You're bleeding outside of where you're supposed to, and so because I have lesions and stuff like that all over in the insides, my doctor does not want to go in and remove it. A lot of you have been like, go in and have surgery. He won't do that, because even the littlest, tiniest bit of endo, if it's hidden somewhere or still there, could cause a huge amount of pain. So basically, it's just going to be back to Depo. If that doesn't work, then we'll go to the next step. But I think the Depo is going to work again. I don't see it not working. My endometrioma has actually shrunk since I've been stimming.
Yep.
So, I mean, who knows? Last question was Beth Hubner. I just have some questions on the possibility of a later retrieval date. Praying that's not the case. Later as in different month, start all over again, or in a few days. Come on, estrogen. That is confusing for us as well. We won't know anything more until Wednesday, which is tomorrow morning. The problem of this, which I totally did not understand firsthand when Lisa was going through this, is the frustration of, oh, you're doing well, you're doing bad, you're doing well, you're doing bad, and then something changing every appointment, whether it's an up in your dosage of drugs or the dates change. As of right now, if my follicles, my littler ones, aren't where they need to be tomorrow, we're looking at a possible Sunday, Monday retrieval or possible cancellation. I don't want to see that happen, so we're really willing it to not happen.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I mean, the estrogen, I'm responding to it really well at this point, so we're still keeping our hopes really up high. But yeah, I mean, anything could happen at this point. So
I have a couple questions because I just posted on Instagram before we started this, so there's a few questions here real quick. This is going to be a long video.
yeah.
Someone said, God forbid this cycle didn't work. Would you guys try to use Kelly's eggs again? Praying that it does work. We didn't really talk about that.
That's a good question.
We didn't talk about that.
I mean, I would think that you would probably have to consider how well I responded.
We would have to talk to the doctor probably.
Here's the thing is, I think if I would have started on 450 gone left,
You would have been okay.
I would have been fine. I would have stimmed perfectly fine. I would have been right on track for a Friday, Saturday retrieval. But because I didn't respond at 300 for 3 days, they had to up me, and then everything started moving really well. So, right. I mean, on my part, I would be willing to do it again. I actually have it written in our contract that I would do it again, but it would be up to them. It's all up to them. Because it's not cheap. The drugs are not cheap. That would be, I mean, it's just not cheap. So, yeah.
Good question. Somebody said, TMI, how are you doing financially? Have you spent more or less than you thought? Meaning, if there was a budget, what was the amount and have you gone over? I think it's important for people going this journey to be prepared, not only emotionally, but financially.
I don't think you can be prepared.
You can't be prepared. Bill and I took out 2 loans so that we could do this now. If we would have had to save to do this, we wouldn't be doing it for a year or two probably. It's just to save that amount of money. So we took out a couple loans just so that we could do it now, and that's what we're doing. So that we're paying those off, and we're doing okay. We worked it out because we had no debt before we took out those loans. We paid off all of our debt. So I'm going to do a cost breakdown video, so I'll explain more of that then.
I don't think you can be, I think it's just like having real kids, of course they're real. It's like having kids, or getting pregnant, you never know what the cost is going to be going into anything. I mean, if you sit there and you're like, I want to be debt-free and financially ready to have children before you have children, you're never going to have kids.
Right.
Because kids are just expensive. There's always unknown costs. What if your kid comes out and they have disabilities? I mean, that's expensive. What if, again, you have to do IVF? You know, like, there's just, I don't think there's any way to be prepared. And doctors and insurance and medical stuff, like, there's no way to be prepared. They didn't know that I would need an extra dose in Gonal-F, and that's going to cost another whatever amount of money. So, I mean, I think you should be overly prepared.
Yeah.
Go bigger than smaller, or right on the dot.
Another question is, does your insurance cover any of the IVF process? Our insurance policy covers $5,000 towards infertility once a year, and we used most of that with our first IVF. No, not our first, our second IVF in January. So we had a little bit of that left to put towards this, but our insurance doesn't. Illinois is a shitty state for infertility because it doesn't cover a lot.
You want to hear the ironic thing? The crack is that my insurance covers 80-20. 80% of any infertility I'd have to go through, they would cover.
Yeah.
It's just so stupid. It's so stupid.
And Bill has a pretty, I mean, our insurance is good for everything else. It's excellent, except for infertility. So it's like, all right, I think this is the last question. It says, Lisa, what are you most looking forward to being pregnant or parenthood? Kelly, what are you most excited for Lisa to experience? I'm excited to just be pregnant. I know it sounds stupid, but I want to feel sick. I want to feel the baby move. I want to feel everything that everybody complains about. I want to feel it. I don't care. I want it all. And I'm waiting. And I'm excited to give birth, and I'm hoping that I could do a natural birth and breastfeed and change cloth diapers. It's all the stuff that people complain about is what I'm looking forward to.
Kaya will whine. Kaya has this, I think it's obnoxious whine. And she does it all the time when she like wants something. She goes, oh. Lisa's like starts crying because she loves it so much, and I'm just like nails on a chalkboard.
Love it.
She's so patient. What are you looking forward to the most of parenting?
I don't know. Find out when I get there. I'm just excited. I'm excited to have our own family and to, and to see like Wyatt's a cool age now. Wyatt, you talk to him and you can have a conversation with him, and he's such a smart kid, and it's just so cool to see what you've taught your kid, I'm excited for that. So
I'm looking forward to her being pregnant. I want to rub that belly. I never like touching anybody's belly, but when she gets big, and I don't care what you say, I'm going to rub that belly. And I'm also looking forward to you and Bill celebrating holidays with your kids.
That'd be cool.
They go so into holidays, and it's just like this kid or these kids are going to be like, I don't know, they're really lucky. They're going to be really lucky.
And here's the last thing. It's not a question, but Annalise said, not a question, just a statement. You guys are the true meaning of a beautiful friendship. I hope you know what an inspiration you both are.
I love you, Annalise.
So thank you.
I love you, Annalise. Your box will be there. Lisa actually set your box out for you because I've been obviously busy, but she sent that out to you, so it'll be there Monday.
Yep. Oh, wait. One more person just had a question. Sorry. When this works, she said, when this works. Will you use Kelly's eggs again for future babies, praying that you get multiple eggs? If we have extra eggs, we will freeze them, yes, and hopefully use them.
And honestly, if this goes well and my endo doesn't get worse, I mean, this has not been so bad, I would be willing to do another retrieval if they need more eggs. Because we'd already talked about that, which is why it's in our contract. If they need siblings or something, or want siblings, I should say. But,
yep.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it.
So if you guys have questions for John or Bill, leave them below because they both agreed to do a video.
I think it'd be. Actually agree?
Yeah. He said if he's sitting next to John, like if John and Bill could sit in like we are, he'll do it.
And John's more long-winded than me if that's possible, so that would be a long video too.
I'm interested to see though, so ask some good questions for them because they're willing to do it. So that's it.
That's it. Keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully we can get this video up tonight on both channels, but I have a very important, I think the most important appointment is tomorrow because that's what will be the telltale of where we're going. I have how many follicles? 15?
Yep.
And then 3 of them are where they should be, and then the rest are kind of behind, but fingers crossed. But I grew an 11-1 in like 2 days.
And her estrogen jumped from 100 to 600 in 2 days.
I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny because I looked at John the other day and I was crying. We were in the middle of Sephora, or I was just had gotten done at Sephora doing some damage because I like almost burst out crying at Sephora. And on the way home from the mall, I'm like, John, how are you feeling? I was getting really sad, and he was like, this is gonna work. He's like, I don't care. This is gonna work. So, yeah. I really think it will work, but obviously there's still that.
All of this could not have come together and then have it not work. So
I will be very angry with the universe if this does not work, because we have had no roadblocks and my pain has been manageable and I feel great right now. And obviously I'm super bloated right now. Lisa's like, "Shut up! You're sticking that out." I'm like, "No, I cannot. I look like I look like I'm 3 months pregnant. No, I would say 4 months pregnant right now. I had to buy a dress. Yeah, she's poking it right now. I had to buy a dress specifically because I don't fit in any of my clothes. And she's like, "You're sucking it." I'm like, "I can't."
That's kind of a good sign. I
No,
think.
it is a good sign. But I feel great, and at this point, if this didn't work, I will have some words with the universe, because it feels right. It's felt right from the beginning. We have our necklaces on. She gave me this beautiful little locket that I will show you guys and talk about later. But I mean, it's just everything's just fitting, and I will just be very sad.
So we'll do an update after tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, but. Yeah.
That's all. Thanks for all your questions.
For hanging around so long. I hope you didn't get too bored.
Yeah, this was a long one.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.